Hey, fight fans, thanks for joining us. This is our little after show we like to call After the Bell.
Ding ding.
And this is me, yours truly, Mr. Nathan Tyrone, and I'm here with...
Dorian, Mr. MMA Hernandez.
Yes, and we come to bring you all of the facts after the fights are done. So we had a lot of stuff going on since our last episode, and if you haven't listened to the Carnival Barking episode, I can't say enough how spot on right we were about the fucked up promotion of Bellator's unfinished business card. What a lopsided, mismatched card that was, that provided very few competitive fights and even one complete sham rock of a fight.
Well, I wasn't so disappointed with the Patrick Pitbull Ferrer fight. You know, it had the perfect little climax to it. He almost got knocked out and finished in the first round.
And then came back. And looked good.
Yeah, but that was only because his opponent did like what Melvin Manhoff seems to. He did the Melvin. I like to call it the Melvin Manhoff.
A little too aggressive.
And makes the mistakes and ends up getting caught.
Yeah.
You know, because he did it with Robbie Lawler. I forgot who he just finished doing it before his last recent fight, but he had the guy on the ropes. Came in with the open guard and got knocked out.
Yeah, he smelled blood in the water. He thought he could finish it.
Yeah, so but I mean, of all the fights on the card, that one I was not disappointed.
But
with.
he got knocked out fucking cold too. That was
out.
Brutal.
Lights
you
out.
know,
And I give it to the ref for stepping in there before Ferrer was already on that follow up. You saw that?
Because Ferrer was in survival mode. He saw the loss. I think we all could see it happening.
Yeah.
And I think Ferrer could see it happening front row seat.
So when the minute he said, "Oh, you down? I'm going to make sure you stay down."
That right counter, boy. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminded me of I don't know how many of you guys have seen that movie, The Watchmen, where he goes, "This is the left hand that knocked out Captain Axis." Well, I'll tell you what, that was the fucking right hand that knocked out Captain Axis right there. He knocked that boy right on his ass.
Out. His head bounced.
Yeah, it was a brutal, and he didn't know what hit him.
Nope.
Yeah.
But the Kimbo Shamrock fight.
Shamrock show.
And I'm not stuttering. I'm calling it a sham of a fight. That was a match. We just watched. I forgot what they have a terminology in wrestling for a match when whenever a new wrestler was ever going to come out and they wanted to start selling him to the crowd, they always put him against the Brooklyn Brawler. You know, it was and we already knew before the match even started who was gonna win.
See, but that's kind of why I was so fucking disappointed, because I really thought Shamrock had the skill set, and I still do think Shamrock has the skill set to beat Kimbo Slice.
I'm gonna agree with you, because remember when we first discussed this, I went for Kimbo.
You did, and you told me that he was bigger, and he really wasn't.
And I just meant bigger in the sense that he came in heavier than Shamrock, but. The fight that we watched, weight wasn't even a freaking factor.
It wasn't a fight. I mean, I know that you're just using that term because we are
talking
about fights.
Yeah. We'll refer to it as a match
or a show.
This it's almost like M1 Global's freaking Renaissance Fair night sword and shield fighting that they're now putting on. This was a fight that. In between fights, you put something on like this on to keep the crowd interested, because it was definitely nowhere in about. If it was about unfinished business, it was about Bellator's unfinished business. It wasn't about Kimbo's and Shamrock's unfinished business.
That was the top of their card.
Yeah.
Bellator really finished business with that one, though, didn't. Business was fucking booming.
They went from 2.4 million to 2.7 million viewers in that one little span of time.
Just fucking incredible.
Okay. And if you guys need to check out our Truth About, because we did a Truth About segment on this fight. There was nothing mixed martial arts about this fight.
It was sad. It was disgusting. I was so upset while watching it, and I think I immediately texted you because we weren't watching it at the same place, and I was like, I've seen better fight choreography in films. Shit, man, if you guys have seen The Raid or The Raid 2, much better fight choreography, much more believable fights, and you're watching a film. Here, we're supposed to be watching a fight, and the choreography was so horrible, and
the takedowns, the single leg takedowns, and how Kimbo just went over like a mannequin. Like, he didn't.
The first takedown, Kimbo literally, instead of trying to sprawl and back away, he jumped on one foot into the takedown.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck was that? I mean, I understand how some fight fans really just want to give the benefit of the doubt and everything, but Guys, you just have to be brutally honest with yourself. You have to give yourself your own little truth about segment.
The most realist thing about that fight was the punch that hit Shamrock.
It was, but it wasn't. It was a real punch, yes, but I don't think it was a knockout blow.
Oh no,
and I think that was a bunch of
I didn't
acting.
say it was a knockout blow. I just said it was about the only thing real.
It was one of the few punches in the whole fucking fight.
You know?
Shamrock didn't throw a punch, not a punch in a fight, and you don't throw a punch. That's a troubling thing.
You know, like if it wasn't for the fact that I've seen another fighter do it, but this is a fighter who I would give credit to, not that I would want to take away from her, but those 2 times that Gina Carano got full mount on Cyborg Santos during their fight, you know, I guess maybe it's my mentality. You know, Mr. MMA has a very simple philosophy. If I'm in that cage and I'm standing there from across my opponent, my job is very simple. Even though we always hear Goldberg and Pat Miletich and all these other commentators say on the show that scoring is done by effective striking, grappling, aggression, and ring control. If I get full mount on my opponent, even if I know that their pedigree in grappling is higher than mine, but I've secured a full mount, I'm going to make my presence known. I'm going to hit you with the hammer fist. I'm going to hit you with punches. I'm going to hit you with downward elbows.
Keyword being hit.
You know, but I'm going to make you feel my presence. He flattened Kimbo out. And very quickly, I might add. And then throw not one hammer fist, not one punch. Everyone knows that's what you would throw in a position like that if you either wanted to grind him out and let the ref stop the fight, or you want to secure the rear naked choke by constantly making him move his head.
And without any blows to the head, he still secured a choke. He never sunk the choke in as deep as his elbow. He never got his left hand behind the head. He never. Look at Kimbo Slice and his failure to even struggle or breathe hard. He never even cut off Kimbo's air. It was just a farce. It was a farce. And I was really disgusted by that. And it's a black eye on the sport. And, I mean, really, if this is one of the most successful shows Bellator puts on, do you think they're going to gear towards shit like this in the future?
What I honestly, after having 2.7 million viewers tune in, it's almost like aiding and abetting. Yeah. I don't see why they would stop if they can find another circus act type of fight to put on. I mean, look what they're doing now with Tito Ortiz. How many times has he fought for them? 2 times.
Yeah.
2 times. And now he's getting a title shot.
Yeah.
Okay, Joey Beltran was riding a 3-fight losing streak when he was released from the UFC. And Bellator immediately signed him and put him against Rampage Jackson, who did what? Knocked his ass out. Killed him. Then you know what Joey Beltran got right after that?
A title shot.
On the middleweight belt against Emmanuel Newton.
Yeah.
And so when Coker went on record to say that Bellator is not the minor leagues of MMA, I agree with him now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that.
Because you know why? You have officially turned yourself into the circus act of MMA.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
You know, I can't think of anything else because it's just utterly insulting. That fight that they put on.
It's insulting to a fight fan because regardless of what you guys really want to define it as, what a fight fan does is they tune in to see 2 competitors go in there and try to hurt each other, try to knock each other out, try to put each other in compromising positions of pain so that the fight ends. And that's what we tune in for.
And they use everything in their arsenal.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in
Ken
there.
Shamrock has tarnished his name. Well, I mean, really, can he have possibly tarnished it anymore? It's a sad state of affairs. It was an opportunity for him to regain some level of honor in the sport, and he squandered that opportunity probably for a big payday.
I wouldn't even know if it was that big because we already know Bellator's bank ain't all that.
Yeah, well, if he bet on himself,
when fighters are going
if
home
he
with
bet on
$400,
him and his camp could have took all of that money and bet on himself.
I can't see Bellator lasting much longer with things like this. And for folk, if you folks don't know, it's not really the parent company, but basically the major funder and backers of Bellator is Viacom. If you guys don't know, the biggest money makers for Viacom was the Colbert Show and Jon Stewart.
The T is silent, Colbert.
And either way, well, you know what's also silent? He is, because he left. Okay. He left them, and he was their number one ratings bringer inner. And Jon Stewart announced his leaving at the beginning of this year. So those are their two biggest ratings bringers, and they're gone. What do they have left? And Bellator could be one of those things. I mean, I do like Coker. He does show, obviously, some type of form of good business sense because people like working with him. People look at Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz was at that Bellator event and took pictures with them.
Yeah, but Nick Diaz is if anything you want to say about that fucking attention deficit disorder, marijuana smoking, brilliant jiu-jitsu artist, you got to also say he's a business-minded kind of guy. He doesn't want to fight for UFC unless he's fighting in big fights. And, in a way, I agree with him. He's earned that. Right, he's earned that. And so, the UFC is bullish on that kind of thing. They don't want to keep giving guys big fights.
But that's also because of his own. I think it's also because of his own, some of his own actions too. The off camera nonsense that he keeps putting him through.
Right.
And but that match with Condit.
Bellator is the type of promotion that would put up with that without a problem.
And the thing is that the Carlos Condit fight, I still find. I know about the glass half empty, half full scenario, and you know that I'm very logical, and I try to stay very level-headed before I choose a side and go with it wholeheartedly. That fight was definitely, the glass half full, half empty, depending on what aspect you looked at it.
You and I would just always disagree with that because I feel like the underrated striking that Condit was doing while he was stepping back, he was doing the step back strike that you didn't see in his return as much. He had a much more forward, hunched back type of stance in his return fight.
It's the only fight he's ever fought that way. If you look at every
I feel like he also fought George St. Pierre that way. He also fought George St. Pierre that way.
No. You know why? You know why he fought St. Pierre that way? Because everybody knows that when Condit goes to the floor, he has difficulty getting back up.
Condit's got some good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but look, let me put it this way. If Johnny Hendricks can take you down 9 times during a fight with a broken hand, and you and I are both in agreement that he did way more work off his back than what Hendricks did by taking him to the ground.
Hendricks got
but 9 takedowns in a fight, he set a record on a guy who wasn't injured. Yeah. So that says something. So the thing is that and did you see how Condit was returned back to normal in the Alves fight? The only thing that changed up was the combos, how he threw them. He threw a lot of more multi-variations, so that way it kept Alves off his step. He also had. But no matter what, Condit is always a go forward type of fighter. He's always a go forward type of fighter.
He used to be he used to have his back in more straight in almost a kickboxing kind of way. And I felt like on his return with Alves, he had a more hunched over, more of a boxer's kind of the way he held his back. Of course,
because they didn't. You think about it. He needs a lower center of gravity. They're tired of seeing these takedowns. And
that's not going to help him necessarily avoid the takedown. He's got to get a better sprawl or just be more evasive.
No, but remember, in order to secure that single leg or even to get the double underhooks, you got to get your hands around him.
Right.
Okay, and between his reach and the way he strikes, that stance is a beautiful stance because it means you're going to eat 1 or 2 hits before you even get the clinch if you succeed on the clinch.
And he's wicked with the knees.
Yeah.
So that stance also
I could understand. I understood perfectly why he did it. And to see, the thing is that was an easier transition for him than it was when he fought Diaz. Because we saw what happened after the first round. Even Greg Jackson said, "What did we work on? What did we work in practice?"
Right.
He said, "Don't exchange with him. Did you see what happened when you exchanged with him? He won." He says, let's stick to what we trained on. 1, get out. 1, 2, get out. 1, 3, get out.
Right.
Okay, and that's a smart fight. So it was my first time seeing Condit fighting a smart fight.
Wow. I can't say that. I'm a big Carlos Condit fan, and Carlos Condit's a pretty. I mean, ever since he fucking floored Dan Hardy, he's been fighting fairly smart.
But they were throwing. They were throwing. It's a difference. If you look at almost every single one of his matches, look at the Campman fight, the aforementioned Dan Hardy fight. No matter what, it was we were watching exchanges. It wasn't like, oh, I hit you. If you ever noticed this, I noticed this a lot, when somebody lands a really, really good hit on the opponent, a lot of the times that opponent, instead of staying in the pocket and trying to land another one, he will now step back because he knows his opponent's going to come at him and now try to throw something at him.
Yeah.
Okay, Condit is one of those type of guys, I nailed you with something? Oh, you didn't throw nothing? Or here, have some more. And he's always been that way. He's always been the natural born killer. We didn't see the natural born killer in the Diaz fight.
He was way more because I think he did what fighters should not do. He focused on GSP during the Diaz fight, and I think that was obvious in the way he was talking, like he was heir apparent.
Really? Because I don't think he looked afraid of Diaz ever trying to take him to the mat.
He was not afraid of Diaz, but he was not focused on the Diaz fight as much as he was thinking, I can't wait to fight GSP
off of this. Okay,
you know what I mean? So, I mean, and therefore he was not the guy we've seen before. And I still think he won that fight. I don't think it was questionable.
Well, no. I'm not saying questionable. I'm saying glass half full, half empty. Matter of perception.
Well, then it's questionable. If it's a matter of perspective or perception, it's questionable.
Well, because, I mean, everybody saw that fight and felt the same way, too. In fact, when they yelled out the Condit decision, about 50% of the audience booed.
Right, I'm not trying to say that I've got the popular opinion. I'm not trying to say that I'm with the popular people.
But I didn't ultimately get too upset either. You know what I mean? Like, I was able to see right away, like, with flashbacks in my head, okay, I see why you gave it to Condit, because ultimately...
Do you remember where that fight happened?
No.
Yeah, I bet dollars to donuts. I don't remember either, and if you guys do, chime in. But I bet dollars to donuts that fight happened in California.
No, Vegas.
Okay. Either way,
you know why I remember?
Nick Diaz.
Because Diaz always says Vegas don't like him.
Nick Diaz has a cult of personality that is weird. If you guys are just now joining the fight game, just now getting into mixed martial arts, Google Nick Diaz. He literally has a cultish-like following because he's accomplished so much, and he's given us those fights that will they just go down in history. The man is almost a legend, I would say. You know, so
he is.
Yeah, it's fair to say. It's just he's so fucking cocky about it.
Because there are people that I've spoken to who are not even avid MMA fans, or even like what's the other terminology?
Casual.
Yeah, and the minute I say Nick Diaz
they knew
or Nick Diaz, and their first thing is, what is those guys' problem?
Right. And that's part of the greatness of it. You know, these guys who seem not to give a fuck. Now, I think that Nate is not as smart a businessman as Nick. I think that Nate should have kept his mouth shut and wrote out his contract a little faster with the UFC. Should not be giving the UFC such problems. He's not made the accomplishments his brother has, and he feels like he deserves the same kind of respect. You know, and I don't think that's true. I mean, listen, you put Nate Diaz up against someone his weight comparable to Cyborg, Santos, and have Nate and Nick Diaz come out on top, then maybe I will give Nate some more props. But Nate is younger, has not made the accomplishments.
Actually, he's beaten some
people. But you remember the Cyborg Santos fight? Do you remember that Strikeforce fight? Guys, find it. Watch it. That is a beautiful fight between.
But that was Nick.
I know, but what I'm saying is Nate has never had anything close to that.
Well, I guess not, because a lot of people were doubting on Maynard. When he beat Maynard, I thought that.
I liked Maynard. I always liked Maynard. The bully is a brawler, but he was not up to Cyborg Santos.
That wasn't the Maynard that faced Edgar.
It wasn't, because he's already been beaten up.
Three times. Got three knockouts already.
As good as the bully is, Gray Maynard, he was never. I mean, when Cyborg Santos was in his prime, he was a superstar. He was. Everyone thought he was going to beat Nate Diaz.
What about the Jim Miller fight?
Jim Miller, again, no fucking Santos. He's just not. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to take away from the skill sets of these people
Are
the
we
strength
talking
of the win.
Evangelisto, Mr. Two-time PED.
That's who we're talking. Hey, I'm not
retired?
trying to say that he wasn't juiced up. Cyborg Santos was as juiced up as a Hawaiian punch bottle. But he still got beaten up by Nate, and Nate wasn't. Nick rather, Nick wasn't juiced.
That's my no. But he got beat by Nick the same reason why everybody gets beat by Nick.
Because they choose to stand and fight.
And he has vicious cardio.
But Santos was a fighter to do that. You understand? Santos was up there like Wanderlei Silva. He was one notch below Wanderlei Silva in his prime.
You know what cost? I believe you. I agree with you. What cost him that fight was that he decided to stand and exchange.
Yeah.
I don't know who convinced him that taking the fight to the ground.
That's how Santos fights.
I don't.
And you know what?
And I went for Santos on that fight because that was
Santos was, I think, if I'm not forgetting, he was like a 5-1 favorite.
If you didn't root for him just on his appearance alone, the Edward James almost craters and then looking like I just came out of prison.
I mean, if you don't know who Cyborg Santos is, look at his ex-wife,
Evangelisto,
who took his name.
She doesn't have it anymore.
She doesn't have Cyborg.
She's Justino.
No,
Cyborg was given to her.
Cyborg Santos
from her the beat downs that she was giving people that were similar to when her husband was on his.
I didn't think. I thought that he gave. I thought he gave her that.
It. She inherited it because they both had that same.
But wouldn't she inherited it if she wasn't his wife? You see what I'm saying? It's his name. It's his name.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I don't think they would.
Like he's the original Cyborg Santos.
Like fantastic.
You know, he's the original Cyborg, and when he was in his prime, he was a force of nature. And Nick Diaz beat the living shit out of him. I mean, Nick, not Nate. Yeah, why can't I get these Stockton boys' names right? I'm gonna get Stockton slapped.
And the fact that their pedigrees in grappling were virtually identical.
Yeah, but I still say that Nick. I did it. See, guys, if you guys listen to this podcast, I just punch myself in the face for you.
Nick welterweight, Nate lightweight.
Yeah, I keep mixing the two names up because they're both ends and they're both Diaz's and they look the same and their fight styles are kind of the same. But Nick,
very similar.
Yeah,
let's be honest. They have the record for the most punches thrown in a round, let alone in an MMA fight.
Yeah, Nick is definitely, absolutely the superior fighter and the living legend, and Nate is a great grappler
who needs a little spark on his
he needs to fight more. He needs to stop playing the prima donna. His brother can do that. He cannot. That's my point. That's all my point is.
I agree because the thing is that one philosophy I've always believed. It's hard to say you're hungry or act like you're hungry when you've already eaten filet mignon and lobster. And these guys have seen beautiful paydays, discretionary bonuses on top of that from the UFC.
They got a hell of a gym.
And I'm questioning that one now.
They had. I know at one point.
I don't know what Gracie's doing over there. I think Caesar is getting older and his responsibility. I think he's maybe wearing himself too thin. But these guys from the Caesar Gracie gym are all letting me down. Melendez is starting to look like a glorified boxer. Nate and Nick are looking like prima donnas. Don't get me wrong.
Like we were saying, at the last Metamoris, Josh Barnett put the fucking beats on a Gracie. Tapped him out. Josh Barnett is a beast.
I don't know what's going on over there. I think they're getting complacent.
Or it could just be that they've got I think, if I'm not wrong, they've got Brazilian chain and California chain of the gym. That's a lot of fucking money coming into the Gracie family, really, because their name is synonymous with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The Gracie family really are the family that brought Jiu-Jitsu to Brazil. So
who's managing these guys?
Right. At this point, I don't know. You actually would know better than I.
And if I remember correctly, Nick, and we know this guy's been paid.
Yeah.
He still lives with this trainer.
From multiple promotions.
And did you see the little hoopty that he used to when he was putting out those little Instagram videos or whatever? He was driving a little oompty type of hatchback.
You know what? That's how rich people keep their money, bro. No, really. You look at it. I'm telling you, Nick Diaz is no fucking idiot. I told you, he's a smart businessman. He's a smart guy. He just has concentration issues, So he's no idiot. He should. I mean, I'm not surprised he's driving a hoopty because I bet you his bank account is fat, or at least, I don't know. I know he messed up with that promotion he tried to start. I think he lost a lot of money with that promotion he tried to start.
No, he's trying to do it again. He's trying to run another one.
Maybe it was successful.
This summer. Okay, well, I mean, They say he's attempting, but nothing else has been put out there yet.
Yeah,
They
so
said that I think maybe in early March.
I didn't see the last one. Did you see?
Nah, I didn't.
I heard halfway decent stuff about it, and so, but it didn't really make big news. It didn't make a big splash.
I just think that he's starting to act a little bit like a prima donna now.
Well,
and
Nate or Nick?
Nick.
I think both of them, but I think Nick is entitled.
I think Nick did it first.
Nick is entitled.
Nate is following. I don't think he's entitled anymore. Now he has to. I think he has not made the transition. Like, he is still young and in the perfect time period for when the sport evolved. He could evolve with it. He's not trying to evolve. He's all about the paycheck, and I just don't. Like I said, it's hard to say you're hungry when you're already. You're right,
but Nick Diaz makes no mistake when he's talking to you what he's about. He'll say it to your face. He's not planning on fighting the rest of his life. This man has plans on living a long and prosperous life, but he also has a few fights left in him. He's already fought legendary fights in his career. If he were to walk away today, which he's not going to do, he would walk away.
But that fucking fight with GSP wouldn't be labeled as.
No. I'm not. That's not one of them. But it was. Hey, he was in there with GSP. GSP beat the brakes off the kid, but he was in there.
He almost had him. I think it was second round when he rocked him, and then we were at White Lawn. I was expecting him to come out hungry again. He went right back to the same style. Like, I don't get it. It's like when you. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to understand. See, Nick Diaz is one of those really, really big conundrums. You know, he shows no fear in the cage.
None.
Okay, but yet he complains when a fighter doesn't cave to what he's doing.
Right. Whenever you don't fight his style of fight.
Yeah. Well, guess what, Nick? That's life.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what I'm referring to. Then when
it was hilarious when he was fighting Anderson Silva and he lays on the ground and he looks at John McCartney and he says, "Look at this," and John's like, "No, it's you. It's you, man."
And the Big John pisses me off a lot of times with those things. Like, one minute he's a great veteran MMA ref, and then the next minute he's like, overbearing. Like, now all of a sudden he's been way more sympathetic about the crotch shots. But I remember quite a few times he was like, "You ready to go? Are you good to go? You ready to go?"
Well, maybe someone's talked to him. Maybe Insacts got on him or something like that. You never know what happens behind the scenes with that.
But my issue with like I said with Nick is that ultimately you have to assess and then be resolute and realize that you're going to have to be the one to make the adjustment. He refuses to adjust.
I think he just wants to be a prize fighter. He wants to fight a couple more big fights. A prize
fighter adjusts.
Well, not necessarily. A champion adjusts. Prize fighters are in it for the money, man. I mean, at this point, Nick is already a champion several times over. And so, I don't know. It's kind of like the Rampage thing, like we always talk about, how he just wants to fight. Yeah, Rampage isn't going to learn new tricks. He's still going to be the same old guy that does the same old thing, but he'd still be a formidable foe. I think Nick wants to put himself in that kind of area. And or like you say, you saw him at the fucking Bellator show. Maybe he'll go over there and take a belt. Defend that belt for years until he walks away.
Bellator have no money, have no from giving them money. They did it before. Well, I'm sorry, Strikeforce did, but I don't know. I'll go to Nate. I'm gonna leave Nick alone. Like I said, Nick has always been that.
Well, like I said, Nate's following him. Nate's like a little puppy jumping around behind his heels, trying to do exactly what he does without the accreditations and stuff. Anyway.
But what I like about Nate is when that passion gets in, he makes that transition. When he saw that Maynard wasn't gonna be the bully, who decided to be the bully?
Right.
Okay. When Jim Miller was supposed to be the aggressor. Really? Like, we felt if anybody was going to put it to Nate and give him that striking contest that he wanted, it was going to be Miller. And he chokes him out to the point the man's tongue was sticking out.
Jim Miller?
Yeah, his tongue was sticking out. That's how tight
that
I
saw that. It looked like
guillotine.
He was going to bite his fucking tongue off. I remember that now.
Yeah, okay.
I remember that now.
And Miller was on a nice hot streak. And considering his wrestling accolade, he was knocking fools out.
Miller never really came back from that.
Yeah,
Miller never.
And it wasn't. And I don't even think it was the Diaz fight that really changed him. It was the loss right after the Diaz fight that kind of now he's wondering. I don't know.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been the same.
But
So what'd you think of that Djurdjic fight this
the
weekend?
Djurdjic Penny,
Yeah,
she's the truth.
she is. She
She's the
looks pretty
truth.
fucking brutal.
You know, as much as I've knocked those one-dimensional fighters, those people that will just learn enough to keep them on what they do best, she's shown how it's a sound philosophy. It is a sound philosophy because the girls that she's been fighting are no slouches. Penny was ranked number 5.
Now, wasn't Penne the champion over Invicta that lost to Waterson?
Yep.
So
And still
I
had victories
saw
over
that
Namajunas.
fight. Did you see that fight?
I had to catch highlights of
I
it.
saw that fight, and that fight was pretty much Penne's fight for a lot of it. Waterson is one of my favorite fighters, and she just showed so much heart in that fight, and she came through with her wrestling and did some excellent transitions and did just brilliant, even used some brilliant jiu-jitsu in there, and managed to get a submission when it was looking rough for her, when she was looking bad, and so it was a real close fight that Penne lost. So to see Penne then go against Djurdjic and
Get destroyed.
demolished, I was shocked.
11 takedowns.
I was
shut out.
surprised, and that makes me fearful for the whole division.
Not after what I saw. Now, let me put it this way. Namajunas lost to Esparza because she decided to engage with Esparza on the ground. No matter what, she was doing damn good, but I think in that fight, it was a true test of who had the better cardio. And in the end, Esparza, who is a natural grappler, and Namajunas being more, to me, a more freestyle, it could go either way. I'll submit you if I have to submit you, but I'll have fun knocking you out with my hands and feet too. She decided to engage Esparza in her territory more, and it ended up costing her in the later part of the fight. That's why I think she lost the Ultimate Fighter. But Esparza showed me where she deserved her respect. Now, the way Djurdjic was able to, I think she only succeeded on 2 takedowns, maybe 3. I got to look back at the stats.
Right.
But after those first initial ones, and they were in the first round, no other takedowns after that. None. And we all know that a failed takedown takes double out of the person who attempted it than the person who defended it.
Yeah.
And not only does Djurdjic cardio hold up against all the attempts, she's able to still launch a vicious and
flurry.
Yeah, and
Just
okay, and just like how
machine
Diaz did,
gun Djurdjic.
because they don't look like they have power behind them.
I don't know. She throws them straight and hard, man. They look like they can knock a fucking dude out.
But I mean, they're not one hit and it's lights out. You know what I mean? They're stingers. They're all stingers. But the fact that it's a stinger, even in later parts of round 2 and
Penne
round
looked
3.
like mashed potatoes. I never thought it was going to end that way. It was,
And
it
baby,
was
you
brutal.
had such a cute little butt on the weigh-ins too. I was like, I like Penny. I was like, you attractive too?
Yeah, dude.
I was like, I was like, damn, this girl's gonna look cute in
That's
a dress.
why I'm
and
shocked
heels,
you
and
never
she was
saw
still-
the Waterson title fight. Waterson's a smoking hottie too.
And no, the karate hottie out,
Yeah,
but
holy
it
hell.
was just I had to catch the highlights of it. That was the thing. I missed out on.
Yeah, I watched it because I love Waterson. You know, I like MMA, and I was aware that Waterson was getting a title shot, and I just
Mr.
wanted.
MMA is a cheap bastard.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
You know,
and he's working on that.
I have friends
I
who
don't
have
my
friends,
UFC fight
you know.
pass.
But no,
subscription.
it wasn't on Fight Pass though. It
Yeah,
was on the one
it's
in
an Invicta.
Yeah, but it was
and
before
Invicta's
that,
shown
wasn't
through,
it?
No, Invicta's shown through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were part
I
of the
thought it
deal
was
at the
before
time.
that.
That's why I didn't miss. That's why I missed it because I'm a cheap bastard.
Okay, so either way it goes.
But
Those two are gorgeous.
That's what made it easy for me to catch the highlights. And the thing
And
is
highly
that-
skilled fighters. So let's not sound sexist. We're not saying this to be sexist. We're just trying to state facts as we see it.
What about-
highly skilled fighters but gorgeous?
What about Gadella and Aguilar coming up?
I mean, Aguilar seems okay. I haven't seen a lot from Gadella.
I've from the highlights that I've seen, and usually highlights are obviously handpicked, but from looking at her resume and looking at these girls, I think we might even have a fight of the night. If both of these girls come with the way they're talking, especially because there seems to be a little bit of personal discontent towards each other on that one.
You know, I used to really dislike female MMA, and I disliked
Really?
it. Yeah, when it first was around because I felt like their defense was so weak, that these girls had no defense. It was just go out there and hit until someone gets knocked out. But it's developed so much, and and because of the expansion of MMA, it attracted so much more talent than it was in the beginning. Because before you had few technicians and a lot of brawlers. But you could say the same about the men's division. But I don't mind watching a dude get punched in the face for some reason. But seeing a girl who's not defending herself, or a woman rather not defending herself well, get just beat up, I didn't like that. But now you see these fights where Penny's a competent fighter. She got beat up, but she was doing everything she could competently, and she was competent, in trying to prevent that kind of thing. It wasn't like it was in the old days where the girl just didn't know what to do. Penny knew what to do, but couldn't do it.
For me, I believe it had to be the one of two women. It either had to be
Gina Carano.
No. Cyborg Justino.
Okay.
Or Sarah Kaufman, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna lean towards Kaufman because if Kaufman didn't automatically make me a fan of MMA, she automatically made me a fan of women's MMA.
Yeah.
And when I saw her lose to Rousey, I almost cried. I'm not gonna lie, I almost cried because I knew Rousey was a formidable opponent.
Yeah.
I knew she was dangerous, but Kaufman had already fought most of the girls that she was beating in Strikeforce already in other promotions. So seeing her doing it again in Strikeforce wasn't really pushing
I was
her.
a huge Takedown fan back then, and I still am, Misha Cupcake. But I was a huge Takedown fan, as she used to be called. And so when they had their first meeting in Strikeforce, I hold still to this day, that was the best fight of that year. That hold any other fight that happened. I think Anderson Silva fought twice that year. John Jones fought that year. That Strikeforce fight between the Takedown Tate and Ronda Rousey was easily the best fight I'd seen that year.
And this is why your example backs up what I'm saying, because the main reason why it made me a fan was not because of the brawling or the viciousness. It was the fact that we were seeing such technical prowess.
Right. Don't be confused though. When I said the brawling, I was talking about the initial aspects of women's MMA. Years and years ago.
Because when I mentioned
Misha Tate, Ronda Rousey, I'm not talking about that kind of fighting. I'm talking about what I like about women's MMA. Why I watch women's MMA now.
I see more of the science of the sport.
There were very few fighters, let's say 10 years ago, in women's MMA that I would like to watch. Let's say that. Whereas today, there are many fighters in women's MMA that I like to watch. And that's because their skills are higher. They're actual all-around fighters. They're not just girls in there for a paycheck and they'll get punched in the face. And the defense is key. You see it in women's boxing a lot too, where these girls have no standing defense. So the idea that the sport has developed, attracted so many great athletes, and we do get these all-around great fighters, judo champions, kickbox champions, wrestling champions in the mixed martial arts sports world with women. That's what makes women's MMA great.
I like the fact that, like I said before, you see more of the sweet science behind you see more of the transitions, the reversals. It's a lot of the time when you see the clinching with guys, it's always power versus power. So that's why they're standing stiff for so long.
You see that with Justino though. Well, it's just power versus whoever.
I just see clubbing.
Dude,
that's what she does is club.
Beast.
She the only time she looks technical is in the Instagram videos that she puts out.
Everybody wants to see Cyborg Justino fight Ronda Rousey. You know who I'd like to see Cyborg Justino fight? Cat Zingano. Fuck the Rousey fight. Zingano and her would be a brawl for the ages.
It would literally be a brawl. And I give it to Zingano.
Mm-hmm. Me too. That's why I say, I don't want Ronda Rousey to grab her arm and manipulate her body in 39 seconds and beat her like probably is inevitable. I would like for Cat Zingano to go in there and give her the slow, technical, fucked up, brutal beating that Cat Zingano can do. That would be a fight.
I actually think the Ronda Rousey fight is going to be That was gonna. She's gonna. I think that Justino will bring her the first brawl of her career.
Well, Misha Tate already did that. Let's not. Oh, okay, brawl. It wasn't a brawl. It was very technical,
and a lot of clinching.
But if you
I don't see a lot of clinching happening between Justino and Rousey unless Justino gets too close.
I don't think Justino wants her to get anywhere near that.
Yeah,
nobody at this point
wants
to get close to Ronda Rousey.
And if you think, and I'm gonna tell you right now, if you honestly out there and you listen to me and you disagree, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself that question again. Do you really think that you can handle Ronda Rousey on the ground? Because it's one thing to handle a beast, like I can understand. It's almost like dealing with remember in Terminator, what was the big thing? It was because they created Skynet, but Skynet became dangerous when it became self-aware, right? Rousey is like that Skynet.
Self-aware Skynet.
Because she's already been built to be devious.
Judgment Day.
She's already been trained and built to be, she's
a dangerous woman, yeah.
Okay, and then she has the mindset to even.
She's brilliant too. Yes. Yeah, she's fairly smart. I mean,
come on, in the open workouts presser for the Alexis Davis fight,
she's so well spoken and so eloquent. Yeah.
How do you feel about being the ambassador for judo in MMA? And she basically said, I'm glad, and I'm proud, but I don't want people to look at me as the bar or the stone,
right.
To judge it off. She says each judokai has their own specialty and everything. And I've been studying for judo for 20 plus years and still studying and learning.
Right.
Okay. And now that I'm doing MMA, I'm realizing that it's its own martial art when it incorporated into MMA.
Ronda Rousey is developing at a John Jones freak rate.
Exponential.
Yeah, if you see the fight...
They were calling her the one-trick pony, right?
Let's just take it back to...
I'm going to be on bars all day.
Yeah, let's take it back to Misha Tate, though, where she really did show a variety of throws and grappling and releases and transitions and reversals and what have you.
First fight or second fight?
The first fight.
Okay.
And that fight was just an incredible fight. But then after that fight... the progression and the growth that Ronda Rousey showed as a fighter, it was almost like she absorbed Tate's ability to do all of that.
And now I'm going to put it on you.
And now put it back on you like some kind of mimic magician. I mean, obviously, it's tons of hard work,
Tyrone
but just
is
out. And
awesome.
then you see how even her striking is increasing every time you see her. She's never had that last time she fought.
Remember, they were calling her the one-trick pony. Okay,
I was calling her the
one-trick pony, and yet she pointed out to you that she took down her first 6 opponents in 6 different ways. So you need to go back and rewatch the video.
You're right, but they were all arm bars to end
to finish. But that was the whole thing. You need to stop the takedown first. You're worrying about the finish and not the takedown.
Dude.
And she threw 6 different takedowns. She says she says obviously you weren't really watching the fights.
She put a beating
and with the like I said, let me go back to the Alexis Davis. With the Alexis Davis, she said 20 plus years of judo practice, right? And now three with the MMA. Okay, how does anyone expect to learn how to defend against something like that in a 6 to 8 or 6 to 10 week camp?
Right.
Okay.
Fair.
Yeah.
And talking about Alexis Davis, that was fucking brutal. I mean, that was some Chuck the Iceman Liddell brutality right there. I mean, with obviously on the ground, whatever. She had her hooked, locked, weighed down, beating the fuck out of her. And that was brutal. Now, that was one of the fights where I winced. I was like, oh, it was crazy.
And no, what was funny was that I told most people she really probably didn't feel a couple of those punches because she was out before she hit the ground.
She had a tight choke on her too, so she was out. And I mean, she didn't know where she was.
She was grabbing on Yves Levine.
Yeah.
And it took the ring doctor and Yves Levine. Yeah, and when she looked up and saw Yves, she was like, "Why am I looking at you and not
right?"
Rousey?
Because it was like a minute and change or something.
No, 16 seconds.
16 fucking seconds, kids. I remember that it was just a step in hip heist. And she had the head locked on the hip heist.
No. It happened with an exchange. She went to throw. Alexis went to throw a right.
But she stepped in on her.
She threw the right left hook combo, and the left hook hit right on that temple. When she hit her in the temple, she already started to go down.
And she hip heisted her.
When she went down into Rousey, Rousey's like, "Oh, you're gonna give me your head? Okay, I'm gonna snag that up and hit."
I think she stepped in on that hip heist. And because the way she just spun her around and had that headlock tight, You know, it was
and
beautiful.
Then 11,
I actually
11 followed shots.
I put that whole fight, I think, on now that I remember on my Facebook because that was like a fucking highlight reel. The whole fight.
The thing is that ultimately, like I said, being that Rousey is self-aware in that fashion, knowing how dangerous she is.
And I mean, she's got a good head on her shoulders for a fight too, because she realizes her place as a fighter in terms of. And I'm not trying to belittle it, but when I say know your role, I'm not saying know your role, know your place. Her place as a businesswoman, as a fighter, she seems to be well aware of it and the position that she holds, and she seems to have a good head about it. And I'm just really impressed with her.
This is people. You must remember, Rousey used to basically submit dudes for pocket change so that her and her girlfriend could go get lattes.
Rousey's a lesbian?
No.
Yeah.
I almost had no, not like that. You know, her friend.
I like it.
But it was funny because they had a nice little hustle. Her friend was mad. She said her friend was mad cute. She'd go over to the guy, throw a little smile, talk to him, and then say, "Hey, I bet you my girl over there can tap you out in a minute or 2 minutes or whatever." And, these guys being that testosterone male that we are.
You mean that pretty blonde over there?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll see it. And she used to break out with their money.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're
That's
doing
like
that.
hustling, man.
Yeah, and you're doing that in the street, okay? Like what made Kimbo Slice an internet sensation, just doing it in the street. Okay.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, that's what she used to do after when she started learning judo and everything, and when she used to pass the summer. She didn't get a summer job. All she did was train, and when she wanted to get something, she beat somebody up for it.
Wow.
And her friend would help her do the little hustle.
And how do you know this?
It was on. She did it. I forgot who had the interview, but she was saying right in the camera. And I'm listening. I'm like, wow. So this is a girl who was wrestling men for fun, and this is on California Beach. Yeah.
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 Because people tell tall tales, and the winner.
Rousey doesn't have to tell tales about herself.
No, but people
I don't. From what I've seen of this, from her accomplishments, I mean, let's be honest. This girl won the bronze with a one-arm takedown and a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, but you know what I think part of the problem is?
I don't doubt her heart.
Part of the problem with Ronda Rousey, and again, we go into this on our quick little Truth About segment, kids. So you can check our Truth About Ronda Rousey that'll be up soon. Part of the problem is that she's running through her division. This Beth Correa fight is.
It's a push.
It's
It's a push. You're having to push it because it's the only next best fight in line.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? They need to get more fighters, or what are they gonna do about that? Because she's just beating everyone.
I say give Kaufman another shot. If Kaufman could put herself in the damn win column.
Yeah, maybe they put her on a shelf or something for a year. She'll do a movie or something.
Basically, you can't ask Rousey to play with her prey. That's how I look at it.
Well, she basically said that's what she's going to do with Correa.
Yeah, but Correa looked for it. Correa's
just trying to get the big fight like any prize fighter. And good for her. She got it, and she got it in her hometown. What an incredible accomplishment for Betch Correa. Good for her.
Okay, and remember when I told you that problem that I thought Chael Sonnen was going to bring to the game when he started to talk about Brazilians and talk about Anderson Silva's family? There's a way to self-promote, but you have to be able to maintain a certain line and level of decorum and respect. And when you cross that and you make that fight personal, then you're going to have what happens with like in the original Rousey matches. They finish quick. Or like what happened to Anderson Silva and Sonnen in the second fight. Okay? And I don't care what anybody says. That was a legal knee.
It was a
legal knee.
But,
yes, Sonnen was an idiot for throwing that spinning back fist.
Bunch of problems.
But ultimately, let's not kid ourselves. It's already personal as it is, the fact that we're fighters and we're going to lay hands on each other.
Right.
Okay? You do not need to add any more personal emotion than it is, because as much as most people want to say that it's a detriment, sometimes it's that little moment of clarity and that adrenaline rush that gives you...
Let's talk real turkey then. Betch Correa, how many title fights do you think she'll get in her career?
From what I've seen of her?
Yeah.
She's lucky she got this one.
So maybe this might be her only title fight, is what you're saying.
Because after Rousey hands her loss,
right,
somebody else is going to beat her.
Right.
And they might even do it worse.
So my point is, if this is her only shot to get that back-end pay-per-view money, that title shot, that big show, Why not talk it up and put as many asses in seats? Do whatever you can.
That's if we're assuming that she thinks this is her only shot. She's speaking so confidently. She says she wants to go through her own MMA career undefeated.
Any fighter is going to say something like that.
How many have? To say that they're going to go through their whole career undefeated with the belt.
I guess no one's that bold. That's some bullshit to say.
That's what I'm saying. She.
But my point is that
I can understand pressing the button, but you don't hold it.
Right. My point is this. I don't think there's anything wrong with what Chael Sonnen did down there in Brazil. I don't think there's anything wrong with what Conor McGregor's doing.
Well, I'm not saying what
I don't think
did.
there's anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said.
So there's no line.
I don't think so.
Talk
and
about
the
people's
entertainment
wives,
thing.
their
It's
kids.
a fucking entertainment. I mean, okay, he was outlandish,
No,
and a lot of people don't like that, and a lot of people wouldn't do that.
See, this is what I don't get. It's a form of entertainment, but it's not fake entertainment. This is real life. So the inanimate needs to be separated from the animate.
See, but that's not how you promote a fight. You've got to be completely
Why not?
animate.
McGregor hasn't gone overboard. He hasn't had to talk about. Let me finish. He hasn't had to talk about Aldo's family. He hasn't had to talk about Brazilians.
Okay, look.
It's the level of showmanship. It's how you do it. So
Correa
there's a certain
didn't
line.
directly talk about Rousey's family.
Yes, she did.
She mentioned the suicide thing,
and she said, "I hope she doesn't commit suicide or get hooked on pills again after I beat her." She automatically actually thinks that it was a big deal because she beat Jessamine Duke, which she had to fight the girl to a decision, and the girl had to actually change her fight. Duke had to change her fight style because she broke a thumb on the girl's head. So did Correa really win that fight on her own skill? No, it's because the opponent hurt themselves. She had to get a handicap in order to win that fight and couldn't even finish it. Then her next fight was against in the Fight of the Troops. I literally walked away from the TV. It was boring. I almost fell asleep. The fight with Shayna Baszler. I mean, come on now. Has Baszler looked like the Baszler that fought Gargano since she's even joined the Ultimate Fighter?
No, sometimes those big fights take the fight right
and those
out
are
of you.
the only 3 fights Correa has to her accolade for this title fight. Okay, what got her the title fight was the fact that Rousey ultimately said, "I wouldn't mind fighting her." That's what got her the fight, and that she beat 2 of her friends.
Also, who else is there?
That's true because
Right,
I mean,
so
we're not gonna push Misha Tate 3.
Yeah,
Tate
not
Rousey
yet.
3.
Not yet.
It'll
happen.
They'll do it when there's nothing else left.
No, when after Tate gets a couple good victories, I don't like the way
She's got 4 right now.
Yeah, but I don't like the way she's been fighting. To be honest with you, it seems as though she's been fighting real conservative.
I thought she could finish Renaki. I was surprised that she did.
Yeah, she's been fighting real conservative, it seems, and that's not how you're gonna beat Ronda Rousey. So who knows? Maybe that's all part of her game plan and keeping fresh and healthy, or maybe that's part of a new thing she's working on that we haven't seen the whole development of yet. Who knows?
So that's why that's why I've been looking towards Kaufman. I need to see that one last burst of old out of Kaufman, because if she hasn't and she's been trying to call people out and get that fight out there, she's trying. She's tweeting, she's asking, and nobody's answering the call.
I'd like to see who they're gonna put the Karate Hottie up against. I'd like to see who they're gonna put that old WWE guy up against. What's his name?
Which one?
He was a big star in the WWE, and he was gonna fight this year, but now he's fighting next year.
CM Punk.
CM Punk, right?
Yeah,
I'd like
CM
to see
Punk.
who he's gonna fight.
Did you hear he moved to get closer to the roof?
He needs to do whatever he can. That
No.
He's pretty old to be starting
but
up.
I'm saying, but I like that. I like that. It shows
His dedication.
yeah, exactly.
Well, he's trying to make a livelihood out of it. He's trying to get another job. You know. So I'm interested to see who he fights.
I'm always in. You know, I stay more interested, or at least stay interested for at least the guys that are showing a genuine effort.
Yeah.
They're not doing it for circus.
What did you think about that heavyweight fight?
Which one are we talking
This
about?
past weekend, where the belt changed hands.
Oh, Verdum and Velasquez?
Yeah.
Oh, I was in shock.
Were you?
I was in shock.
I was kind of in shock also.
I was in shock, but I started to notice the beginning of the end when Velasquez started to walk into a lot of the punches.
Yeah. Verdum was eating his heart. He was laughing at him.
Yeah, and he smiled when he finally cinched in.
He was eating his heart in the middle of the fight. It was.
But he did what he fought smart. He stayed still.
Yeah, and Kane gassed early. And here's what I'm gonna say, and tell me what you think about this. Cain Velasquez was probably I don't know, the greatest heavyweight wrestler there ever was. And Junior Dos Santos was a man who I used to describe as could punch holes through brick walls.
Still can.
Yeah, and Kane and Junior went at it 3 times, and 2 of those times were long, hard brawls where each of them had to go to the hospital afterward. And after those fights, as is, in my opinion, happens when fighters have fights like that, it takes a step out of you. Junior Dos Santos really has not looked the same as a fighter since those fights. And being that this is the first time Cain Velasquez has fought since his Junior Dos Santos fight, he doesn't look the same either. That fight might have knocked some fighter years off of both of those fighters.
But remember, to his defense, everybody was dealing with that height issue. 7,800 feet above sea level. 6 fighters puked in the
It did not seem to be a problem for Werdum.
Because did you really watch what he did? He stayed still.
Yeah, well, all I'm saying
Velasquez kept jumping, kept dancing around. Not dancing. I should
why it happened, and I'm not trying to say this is the case.
Energy like that.
I'm not trying to say it's the case that the fighter years have been negligibly shortened for Dos Santos and Velasquez. They could both prove me wrong because I have great faith in both of those fighters. But I happen to notice that when a fighter has several really hard fights like that, it takes a step out of them. It happens to the best of them. Look at
I saw the Cain Velasquez of old.
I did,
and I really feel that altitude.
How could you say? Yeah, you think that the altitude? Cain Velasquez cardio is legendary.
Yes, but
and he gassed out.
The air.
Right, but my point is,
hold on. 6 fighters puked. One dude puked in the cage during his post-fight interview. Did you not see that?
No.
Yeah, one dude puked during his post-fight interview, and Rogan was like, "I'm glad that didn't land on me."
Yeah.
Okay, that's 7,800. That is a big difference.
It's the fighter's responsibility. It is the fighter's responsibility.
And Werdum has already been out there 2 months.
Smart. It's the fighter's responsibility to get ready for the fight.
But that didn't take out of his performance. He moved and
he got gassed real early.
You would too in that height.
Right. Okay. So I see your argument. But that's not good enough for me because he should have gotten his body ready. He's a guy who's known for cardio.
He admitted it. He said 2 weeks was not enough.
Well, that's his fault.
But that didn't. I wouldn't say that it
was going to knock some of the fighter years off. That's what you're saying.
I'm not saying that the previous.
Well,
I didn't see any diminishing. I'll say that. I didn't see any diminishing his performance.
And that's a fair observation. And I'm saying
the heavy breathing caught me.
I'm not necessarily saying that's the case. I'm saying I hope. I'm actually kind of saying I hope that's not the case.
If you really watch that first round again, Werdum started to notice the when it was hitting him, the fatigue was hitting him, and then all of a sudden he stopped. The
idea of Cain getting gassed in the first round is
he didn't. I don't see he got gassed because he kept trying to move. He kept trying to move around,
right, but he
didn't really have to.
Nobody always moves around.
And Werdum is one of those type of characters too, but Werdum didn't do that.
Right, but
he slowed his pace down tremendously.
You're arguing my point with a Cain defense, and that's cool, but I don't think you're seeing my whole point. You know what I mean? My whole point is it's the fighter's responsibility to prepare properly for the fight.
But where does that back up your diminishment?
Let me just finish this. No. I said, see, those are 2 points of an overall statement and not necessarily the same argument.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say that Cain Velasquez is obviously diminished. I'm saying that I have seen that happen to fighters. Now, I hope that's not the case, but watching Junior fight lately, now, do you have any excuses for him?
No. He actually made an excuse for himself. He said that when for that Stipe fight, he said he went into that fight with an injury.
Well, how many more of those battles do you think Junior Dos Santos has in him?
I think the only reason why he's going through those battles is because he's still fighting that one-dimensional fight.
Yeah.
And he needs to. That's why the fights are going the way they are.
He was the champ with that style,
but because guys were getting caught with it. But now are guys getting caught with it?
It doesn't even look the same. It doesn't even look the same.
The whole point is that when your opponent evolves, you must evolve. Junior Dos Santos doesn't do that. He's happy with that brown belt in jiu-jitsu just to keep him on the stand-up. Are you ever expecting him to go for the takedown?
No, but
I wouldn't expect his opponents to either.
He's looked a lot sloppier and a lot slower and a lot less powerful. in his last 2 fights.
Let's see if we take him for his word on those injuries.
Okay, and right, like I said, I'm not trying to say that this is what's happening to them. I'm saying I've seen it happen to fighters, and I would hate to see it happen to these 2 fighters after giving us such great entertainment. But those were some brutal fights, and in my opinion, it's a possibility. Yeah, it's a wait and see kind of thing. I'm not saying it's happening, but it's a possibility. Sure, the altitude's a bitch. It affected all the fighters. Yeah, fine. These guys have to be prepared to fight for their prize. They're prize fighters.
No,
you know what I mean? So, as much as a valid reason, I'm not even going to say excuse, as much as a valid reason that is, it's not enough. For me, I feel like Cain, who knows well what it takes to fight for 5 rounds, he knows that well. He should not have put himself in a position to be gassed so soon, so surprisingly soon, and it was just shocking to me. Look, Mr. MMA guy, I have nothing to say to that.
I don't really want to keep it going.
Yeah. So, what were some of the other interesting fights that had happened?
No, what's interesting for me is who are they going to throw at Jajejic next? That's what I'm wondering. It's the way she's looking like, and she even said it herself that she wants to be the.
I hope they don't throw Karate Hottie at her right off the bat because she's defending. She they do that sometimes with title holders that vacate belts. She vacated the belt over there, so it wouldn't be unheard of.
It wouldn't.
But
it'd be very close to that Bellator Circus Act type fight.
No, because
not in performance. I'm just talking about like it'll be for
in
promotion.
Terms of matchmaking.
Yeah, it'd be for promotion, and it wouldn't be to me the most logical or because I mean you're cutting in line. It's like the whole point is that she should have at least
Conor McGregor cut in line.
No, but he cut in line and still defended.
Yeah.
He still had to get in that cage and fight somebody. You know what I mean? Even if we didn't like who he was fighting, let's be honest, it wasn't like that. It wasn't a Kimbo Shamrock fight. Those guys were really trying to.
Yeah, well, Waterson to Jarek wouldn't be a Kimbo Shamrock fight by far.
No,
It'd
it would just no. I mean,
infinitely.
in the sense, it would be that 3-ring. Hey, this is a good fight, so why don't we do it? When it's not even really the next person
it's not
best in line.
No, what I'm saying is though they do that sometimes with
they've been trying to stay away from it.
Yeah, they didn't do it to Alvarez.
What do you mean?
Eddie Alvarez? He didn't get
Oh no. But he finally got that Melendez fight he wanted. And I was
what did you think of that?
That's why I feel that Melendez is now a glorified boxer. Because no variation. No variation. Do you ever expect Melendez to throw a kick, let alone a takedown? I believe in variation.
Did it surprise you? Now, when we talked about that, and you guys can watch our old episode because we did a whole weigh-in episode on it. When we talked about that, Mr. MMA, you said that Melendez was faster than Alvarez, and I said, I don't know. What do you think now? It was close, but I still think Alvarez got off a little faster.
What surprised me, he got it off faster towards the later part of the round.
Right. He kept.
Okay, with one eye, which is what's bothering me. The newbie mistake that Rogan called him on, and the fact that how do you go down in performance when you taking out your opponent's eye, basically? That's when you put that pressure on that blind spot.
Man. I think he just looked bad against Cerrone because Cerrone's that fucking good.
But then it brings it back to that altitude nonsense. You see, that's why Verdum was happy to give Velasquez a rematch somewhere else, so that way he could prove to people beyond the shadow of a doubt, I can beat him whether it was high altitude and I trained in advance for it, well, or not. And ultimately, Melendez looked like a glorified boxer fighting an MMA fighter.
I don't think they're going to give Cain an immediate rematch.
No, they're looking towards Andrei Arlovski or Stipe.
Because that was a beating.
And I'll be honest with you, I think Stipe should get it first. Even though Stipe wouldn't really put butts in the seats like Arlovski would because of the name.
Right.
Stipe right now has the more consecutive win streak. And he beat Joe. He didn't beat. I felt he did enough to beat Junior Dos Santos.
Me too.
But they still gave it to JDS.
No, I think he got robbed right there.
That one, I don't even call that one a glass half full, half empty. That wasn't even a 51-49.
He kind of got robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I think that Stipe is seems to be progressing also. He seems to be faster on his feet now. His hands are real fast. His hands are real strong and good. He's in good shape.
But he's like is he Russian? I forgot. I think he's really Russian. But he's just another version of JDS.
You feel like he's got no ground game.
If he fights Verdum,
he's got better kicks than JDS.
He's not going to the ground. If he fights Verdum, he ain't going to the ground.
Oh, Verdum will take him to the ground.
He's not. He ain't gonna want that fight.
No, yeah, Verdum is nasty on the fucking ground.
Yeah, and what I give Verdum the ultimate props is that he deserves the best come around of the year. If you really look at what he did, from
around, is that like a reach around?
You know what? No. Or somebody must have given him a good one because, like I said, the man came back with 9-1. Right? He's come back into the UFC since his release. He's gone 9-1. When he went to Strikeforce, he did 5-1, I believe.
Yeah.
So whatever happened to make the UFC release him, put some form of spark in his ass.
That happens with some fighters.
And he showed what most Brazilians don't do, evolution.
Yeah.
Because he improved on his striking tremendously. And if you didn't see the Travis Brown fight, that was a true test. Okay, and I think he even soared in himself. I think he had an epiphany.
I think I did see that Travis Brown
because
fight.
And Verdum was never one of those guys to try to go and exchange. Like, oh, you kicked me in my ribs? Yeah, I'll kick you too. Come on, let's go. Let's keep going. He was amped for that fight.
Yeah.
And that normally the Verdum I've always seen fight is the guy who throw 1-2 and try to get that takedown real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put my big heavyweight ass on you, and I'm gonna sooner or later choke you out or tap you out.
Right.
The fact that he bothered to hone in on his striking, and he slimmed himself up too, big time. He used to have that little muffin top.
Yeah.
Okay. He got rid of that muffin top. So the boy definitely showed that, you know what, I'm gonna take this shit serious. I want back in the UFC, and I'm gonna prove to people that I'm one of the best heavyweights in the world.
It's funny how many comebacks there are that are looking great in the UFC. I mean, Rumble Johnson just lost to Cormier, and okay, he didn't look that great, but good for him to get there. But
you see, that's my problem with his fight. He should have all of a sudden slowed down like Verdum did. Everybody knew that the cardio was going to be the point of attack. Everyone knew the point of attack was cardio. So why do you have to move so much? Why throw so many kicks? Why force so many exchanges?
I think moving so much was to keep Cormier from doing what he does best, which is to basically press his body up against your body and make you carry his weight during the first rounds to really test your endurance. He does that a lot.
No, but moving, yes, but he forced exchanges, especially with those kicks. You're spending energy? As you know how much energy is going to go into that high kick, especially. Yeah. Why expend that energy when you know that the point of attack is ultimately going to be on your cardio?
I like Rumble, and I think it's great.
And it was a 5-round match.
But I think Rumble was just outclassed. I thought that going in. You also have Robbie Lawler, was a guy who was released.
No, I thought really, as far as hand skills, let me put it this way: what Cormier.
Oh, Rumble's got better hands than Cormier.
What Cormier
Rumble's
brought
got better hands. But
so
the mixed martial arts game isn't really about hands when you got a skill set like Cormier. Cormier can not only take a hell of a punch, but he's got good hands. He didn't have it
at first. He didn't get that.
I'm talking about during the fucking fight with Rumble.
Yeah, but that's
right.
He's at that involved point already.
Right. Well, I'm talking about that fight.
Okay.
Yeah. So, shitting on me, dude.
Anyway,
but what I'm saying is that Rumble, great hands, better than Cormier, but Cormier in every other way, in terms, in my opinion, of fighting, is better than Rumble. And so I just thought he was outclassed. His good hands aside, I don't know. And Lawler's another guy who was once ousted by the UFC, come back, got a great story behind that. I mean, Verdum, like you were saying, a guy who got thrown out, came back, great story behind that. And so, some of these guys can get tossed out and come back, or tossed out and really learn more about fighting, more about the fight game, more about how to be a professional fighter, and come back and be extremely great champions, or at least championship caliber fighters.
It'll be just interesting to see if Robbie can hold on to that belt.
Yeah, I think he's gonna hold on to it for this fight. I don't think uh I don't think the kid can do it. I don't like Rory because of the times he was obviously on steroids. The kid looked like a pimpled up fucking He-Man doll, and he shrunk down quick too. So I mean, if you look at Rory pictures and fights from him about 3 years ago, I think about this kid was jacked on the roids, and I just and he always talked shit like he was the next best thing. They always called him the next GSP and things like that. And I lost all respect for him, and I've gained a little bit of that back now that he's a more natural fighter. But the bad taste is in my mouth, and so I hope, I hope he doesn't win.
Even with no proof, the proof is just going to be back at
The proof is going to be the pictures. Look at Rory and his progression into fucking Hulkoid, and then back to what he is now. Look at the pictures. Look at the fights. Look at the guy. You can see that there's a clear physical difference that's unnatural in his body. I mean, you hate PEDs. I'm shocked that you.
No. I'm not. I'm not a Rory fan in any way, shape, or form. I just don't. I don't know if from what I've seen of GSP in his camp, I just don't. Until I actually have that in black and white, I'm just gonna toss it up to
give him
bad
the
acne.
benefit of the yeah, bad acne. That was some fucking horrible acne
because
that just so happened to correspond with huge muscle growth.
Because his performances are always been the same. It's not like he knocks somebody out, but incredible power. His fights have always still been the same, calculating and picking you off until finally, what's the there's monitors, right? They follow you, right? They take their little nips, they bother you, and then they make you think you shoot them away. But no matter what, they're always, it's actually not monitors. Damn, it's a particular reptile. I forgot the name of it. Why is it known to little? But basically, they have salmonella poisoning in their mouth. So basically, what they're doing is getting you sick, and no matter what, they always come in, take a couple of bites, and then leave you alone until you finally succumb to the sickness that when they come in to eat you, you're getting eaten alive. And that's the perfect description of Rory. Rory keeps hitting you, picking at you, moving away.
So you have Rory for this fight, right?
I like the way he fights. He fights the way GSP does. What I like about him more than GSP, though, is that he's a little more aggressive. GSP, I agree with Matt Hughes, started to become content with the point fighting. Even though he was facing a lot of high caliber fighters who have never been finished in their careers, or very few times in their career, asked me if I thought that GSP was the type of fighter that could have finished them, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
I got to admit, too, I thought he became less than spectacular toward the latter part of his career.
He started to become afraid of losing that belt.
But then he just walked away from it, so I don't know if it was that.
I think he walked away from it at a perfect time, though.
He really did.
Yeah, I think he worked out of it, and his point has been proven. There's too many fighters out there juicing.
Yeah.
Too many.
I mean, they really overhauled everything.
Okay, but that just raises his resume even more. Because let's think about it. How many of the dudes on his division that he fought twice
came up dirty,
or didn't come up dirty, but probably were.
Right.
So no matter what, the man is still one of the greatest.
I'm gonna tell you. Here's who I think was dirty. I think Hendricks was dirty.
I agree.
I think McDonald was dirty at a time.
Okay.
I think.
I leave that one in the neutral.
Yeah.
I'll leave that one neutral. I won't say yay. I won't say no.
Feel free to chime in. Who you think might have been, or who was popped, or whatever. And we did a whole segment about this, guys.
I think everybody who came from Pride at one point in time. Okay, Dan Henderson, Vitor Belfort, Antonio Bigfoot Silva, Shogun Rua. Who else came? Rampage too.
Wanderlei?
As much as I like the man, I'm gonna have to say yay.
You can't run from inside.
Yeah, I'm gonna say yay on that one. I'm sorry. And even though he's gone through his whole career unblemished. Oh, and I'm sorry, Kung Lee. You just showing.
Dude, no, Kung Lee was clearly on. He was on roids during the fucking Franklin fight.
Okay. So
Kung Lee looked like a fucking G.I. Joe with a kung fu grip. He looked ripped.
Nah, I'll go more like the He-Man.
Really? Yeah.
The He-Man.
He looks quick kick. Right? Was that the guy? No, Jitsu or whatever the He-Man figure was. He looked ridiculous, man.
But
he got fucked up.
Oh, here's a one for you folks, and you might not hear about this. The USADA announced today that
no more IVs,
no more IV fluids, and because it can be used as a possible means to take in the masking agents or other PEDs, especially after you've already been tested.
You know that rule's gonna be broken all the time.
All I know is that you can't watch somebody all the damn time.
Right.
Okay, and back in the day, remember that movie, The Program? About
yeah,
football,
that was a good movie.
Right? And what did they show you? A football player who was so diehard on being the team, he paid another med student
for his blood, right?
No, to inject someone else's urine in his body.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that when
right,
he went to take a piss, it was clean piss. Okay, so that was based on
actual happenings, I'm sure. Yeah.
So if people are willing to go that far, like, come on, let's talk about Hector Lombard.
Wow. What that guy looked like? Now, again, man, he looked like a fucking action toy.
But so did Rumble Johnson. But what's Rumble Johnson never come up dirty for? And fought in the same division.
The difference
and fought
is
in
that
the same division that Hector
Rumble
did.
just has the build for it, though. Hector's build looked abnormally large for his frame.
He just looks cut. He looks, and the difference between Rumble and Hector is body fat. If you really look at them, it's body fat. But at one point in time, both of these guys were competing at 170. Well, I mean, Hector still is, but and it's hard to even believe it.
Hector's not competing at all right now.
He's trying to go for that metamorphosis, I heard, or some ADJCC.
I was gonna say he would get ripped up in metamorphosis.
Okay. But ultimately, what I found crazy, beyond the fact of me bringing up the program, people trying that, was the fact that he took a designer drug, okay, desomethyltestosterone.
Check it out on our Truth About segment, guys, on PEDs.
And actually had the audacity to blame it on somebody else in his camp and said it was through supplement.
It must have been something somebody gave me.
Okay, and because it's the first time in my career coming up dirty, show leniency.
I don't know, guys. It must have been somebody by a camp. They gave me something to eat. They gave me some food or something.
You know, and that was the same bullshit excuse that...
Listen, man, my mama always said when I drink the milk and get the muscles, man. And so I was drinking the milk they gave me. Must have been something in the milk.
It was the same bullshit excuse that Cyborg Justino used.
Must be something in the milk.
Yeah, I think another steroid news is that they released the second testing of old Anderson Silva, so that he didn't come up dirty. So you got one test says he's dirty, one test says he's not. I think it's more likely that...
Folks, ready for this? From the same sample.
Yeah,
not even the AB sample.
I think it's more likely that there was kind of a laboratory mistake. Laboratory mistakes are not unusual.
But how does a laboratory mistake come up for 2 anabolic steroids? Not one, but 2. Justanolone and I believe...
There's so many different answers to that question. Going into the experience of the lab technician, the techniques they're using to find it. There's so many different ways it could go wrong. Even so much as mixed up samples, mixing someone's sample with another sample, mislabeling. I mean, there's tons of reasons things could happen. So I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying tons of things could happen.
I understand, and I totally agree. Where I'm curious as to, are they going to issue a public apology?
No.
If there was a mistake,
not unless they
because they
find
didn't do it
out.
for Kung Lee.
Why was there a mistake with Kung Lee?
Yeah, remember they didn't. First of all, they didn't use a WADA regulated facility.
Yeah,
they
Kung
used
Lee
some
was
third party.
clearly dirty.
No, he wasn't. They took the sample at an improper time where you could automatically have a false positive, and the people who administered the test were supposed to have known that. And even when they were taking it from him, Kung Lee was looking at him like, really, you're gonna take it now? And yes, now. Okay, and then when they asked, which is their right, to have the B sample tested, it wasn't that the B sample couldn't be found, or it was contaminated, so it can't be tested. So you didn't even handle the procedure right, so I could defend myself.
Yeah, there's often mistakes and stuff, but Kung Lee was obviously dirty though. You could see it in the fucking physique. He blew up like a fucking balloon.
I just think that he worked out too much like a bodybuilder, like BELLATOR did. Remember when Mike Dolce went and worked with no, I think it was actually not Dolce. I think it was. I'm sorry. Maybe it was. I forgot. I know it was it was somebody that worked with. Maybe it was Dolce, and he said that one thing he noticed that Vitor was doing was everything about his diet and the way he worked out was like that of a bodybuilder, not an MMA fighter. He had to like help him restructure that whole thing.
Right.
Okay. Now, Kung Lee looks to me like exactly one of those. And it works too because if you think about it, he's so brolic upper body, but what does he mainly throw?
Kicks.
But if you happen to try to come in after he misses with one of those kicks, what does he nail you with? One of those quick upper body bang! And then it's lights out.
I don't know. I followed Kung Lee for a very long time, and those fights that he had in the UFC, he looked way larger than he ever had before in his career. Ever. It didn't look natural. You know, I don't know. So.
All right. We have to touch on one more before Mr. MMA has to go.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up. We're getting long on the tooth.
One more. Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
Who do you think?
Who do I think is going to win between Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman? Man. Chris Weidman's kind of made me a believer. I really like the way he took care of Belfort. I really like his fights with Silva. I really think that he's the real deal. I also think that Luke Rockhold is the real deal. I hope he's just dehydrating himself because he looks a little skin tight too. You know, maybe who knows what's going to happen with testing on him because
I mean,
I think physically
has anyone from AKA come up dirty?
No, and I'm not saying he is. He could just be dehydrating himself to make weight. You know what I mean? Wouldn't be unheard of. Very common.
But I'm not gonna lie, he is, you know, for lack of a better terminology, a physical specimen.
Yeah,
He's not too big in any particular
area.
Right,
no, he's got an Adonis body.
He's equally dangerous.
And yeah, he's got great technique, and he's hungry, and Rockhold's a former champion over at Strikeforce, right?
By decision.
Against Kennedy?
Souza.
Oh, Jacques, right. So anyway, my point being,
that's the fight I really.
He looks like a different kind of fighter though now. I think he would fuck Souza up.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think Souza would actually put it on him. I think Souza, after that loss to him, and he realized why he lost to him, because ultimately that fight was decided because Rockhold was able to strike more, or at least throw more strikes after he was able to defend on the later takedown attempts.
But Rockhold's really shown some
Rockhold did not want the fight on the ground whatsoever.
Rockhold's shown a lot of growth though.
Yeah, no, not really, because the opponents that he's been fighting have not really been putting him to the test. What he's shown me growth in there is his conditioning. He's always looking crisp, always looking good.
I also think,
and he can show you. He's shown me multiple offenses for different opponents, but all the opponents that he faced, none of them really put him to the test.
He just has this presence about him now, like he's arrived to where he was going. You know what I mean? That he never really had. Well, maybe he had it, just not to the same degree, in my opinion. He has this thing about him now, this swagger, if you will, that he has arrived to his destination. Whereas before it might have been like he wasn't quite sure how long it would be or whatever it was. There just seems like a greater level of confidence in his fighting. He seems to pick his conservative shots and more power shot. I like it, man. I like it, and so it's a tough call.
He reminds me a little bit of Pettis, but without the showtime, because the way he throws his kicks and from the hips, it's poetry.
Yeah.
Every time he lands those things, I have yet to see anybody catch it and capitalize off of it. he nails you with it, and from there he almost like Rory, except Rory doesn't throw that many kicks, but it's that pot shot.
So
and you never know what's gonna come from until I finally catch you.
to answer you though, I love the champ.
Weidman?
Yeah, I love him, man. New Yorker, Brooklyn boy, great champion, underrated. I love him. Who do I think is going to win between Rockhold and Weidman? I think Luke Rockhold will win that fight. I'm sorry, but, I love Weidman. And you know what I hope? I hope I'm wrong. But, like, I was wrong about the Dan Henderson fight. Guys, I'm the first to eat crow on that one. I was wrong. Dan's long ride into the sunset continues. It's not over. So
I disagree on that one. I think Boach walked into the punch.
Yeah, well, either way it goes, I was wrong about how it would end. And so I'm not trying to say that Weidman is definitely going to lose. No. What I'm trying to say is I think Rockhold will win. What do you think, Mr. MMA?
I think that you know how I feel about variation.
Yeah.
Weidman does not throw variation. Not enough of it. He is a striker. He's a puncher / wrestler. We do see kicks and leg kicks in there here and there, but majority is punching, clinching, grappling. Rockhold can throw it any way he chooses. Ultimately, though, it's where he feels his confidence is.
Yeah.
When he fought Souza, he definitely respected Souza's jiu-jitsu. But yet he talks now like he's, like you said, like he's
knows where he's at. He's arrived.
And I think that if Souza and him fought again tomorrow, I think Souza would surprise the shit out of him. Because Souza surprised the shit out of me how far he's come along with his punching. And mind you, we've seen Brazilians who have been grapplers and tried to prove their points
on their feet. Right.
And this is a perfect example because it has to do with the same freaking division we're talking about, Damian Maia.
Yeah.
Because I did not like Weidman at first. I felt that Weidman didn't even deserve the shot at Silva.
Wow.
Okay, and he only got it because he took 2 fights on short notice and won one of those fights against a guy who was trying to prove in the later part of his career, and he's 36, 37 years of age, that he's a striker. When we know that 95% of your victories are from submission. And if this guy just took the fight again with you on 2 weeks short notice, choke him out.
Right.
Don't try to make an example out of him and strike with him. And what happened? He tried to do that. Weidman ended up being the better striker. And by the time he goes for his takedowns with Weidman's build and wrestling affinity, all the takedowns were stuff. So who won by decision? Weidman.
Right.
Okay, by decision. Not by finish, by decision. Then he faces Munoz. And you know how you always felt about Munoz.
Yeah, fuck Munoz.
So how can you push Weidman up off of victory off of Munoz?
Yeah.
Okay, the only reason why I pushed him up, it was yet another fight he took on short notice.
Hey, that's how it happens.
Okay, so, and I'm not knocking it because it ultimately, if you look at the way the list goes and who was injured and who wasn't and who was a more viable opponent,
right?
Weidman stepped it up and taking the fights on short notice and winning, that does say something. You need that extra push because it showed no matter what, even when I'm not already scheduled to fight somebody, I'm on the ready.
Right.
Okay, so like I said, with all me hating all of that. And watching this first Silva fight and the second Silva fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which were not that good.
When he beat Machida, when he beat Vitor, no matter what, regardless of my opinions of their way they fight or whatever the case may be.
Beat being the optional way. He beat those guys.
Okay. That to me said, this boy's
the real deal. He didn't just win. He beat them.
Okay. He's the real deal.
Yeah. No, he's definitely the real deal.
He's the real deal. So... But he doesn't do variation. In all those matches... I think that
he's wily, and he does have slight variation, and I think that he varies in ways that people find unpredictable. One of my problems with him is he's willing to eat a punch. You don't want to do that against Rockhold.
That's where I have to agree with you. I think that if Rockhold stays crisp, stays on his variations, and stays on his toes like he always does... He's gonna hit Weidman once or twice, real good. That is gonna make Weidman change his whole offense in a way he shouldn't, and Rocco's gonna finish him off. And I'm a New Yorker, but that's not reason to stay behind a New Yorker when you know that one skill.
Right. I mean, the champ is a great champ. I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just a fight fan trying to tell you my opinion, man.
But the boy does his homework.
Yeah.
He definitely is.
And you know what? There's a part of me that's rooting for him.
And I'll be honest with you, Rockhold. It'll also come down to if Rockhold thinks his pedigree in grappling is ultimately better than Weidman's, because those kicks,
I believe that Rockhold's at a point where he believes he's better than everyone.
Well,
or at least he seems it.
But you know that when it comes to camps and what they say in their ear, and you know how they are about when it comes to kickers and wrestlers.
Yeah.
They always tell the kickers, don't throw the kicks or keep them low.
Right.
Keep them low, okay? And Rockhold can't do that.
We'll see what happens, because Rockhold's got some pretty nasty jiu-jitsu.
But that's what I'm saying. It's ultimately going to come down to how does he really feel.
Wrestling against the jiu-jitsu?
And if he wouldn't go to the ground with Souza...
Let me tell you, as a wrestler,
if he wouldn't
I would not fuck with someone that has that kind of skill set. If I didn't know how to choke someone out, if I didn't know how to,
But Rockhold...
I guess he does.
His first 6 victories were submission.
So...
So
that's Weidman?
Rockhold's first...
No, I'm talking Weidman. I'm talking Weidman. I'm saying,
I'm sorry.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'd want to test my elite wrestling skills against a guy who's close to an elite... What belt is he? Is he a black belt?
Yeah. And the thing is that Weidman said that he already feels he's better in both than him. He's saying it, so
he needs to feel that,
he
should feel that.
And every time he said that, like he did with Machida, like he did with Belfort,
he proved it.
Like that.
Yeah,
and he fought like that.
That's
he
right.
didn't stray from it in any way, shape, or form.
He says what he wants to do. He'll tell you what's up.
If he believes that
and performs like that,
okay. So then Rockhold
has a long night ahead of him.
Yeah, we're not seeing the Rock.
Right. And there's a part of me that really wants that to happen. I want the David and Goliath kind of thing to happen. I want Weidman to win. I just don't think he will.
Because I've watched some of so he was doing some kick practicing. I mean, of course, maybe there's always different style of kicks, but he has some great snap. It has power, but it's not quick on the retract.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you're not quick on the retract,
you're taken down against a guy like Weidman.
And Weidman
but
is a wet T-shirt.
But does Weidman really want to fuck with him on the ground?
Weidman
like that?
Is a wet T-shirt.
Yeah. Do you think he'll be able to block the ground attempts on submission?
After what I saw with Belfort, after what I saw with Machida, nobody wants to engage with him on the ground. Nobody wants to engage with him on the ground.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for that fight.
Okay, so like you said, it's going to come down to how confident is Rockhold in his grappling.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, if truth be told, variation always wins.
Absolutely.
And Rockhold has it in spades. And for Weidman to all of a sudden show me that he's going to do that in a short time and learn that, you can't just learn something like that.
Yeah. Rousey said it. So, guys, thanks. Thanks again for tuning in with us on After the Bell. Hope you got your ear full. Hope you got your whole MMA beat the hell out of your ear hole. And, we'll see you next time. This is Nathan Tyrone with
Mr. MMA Dorian Hernandez.
Yeah, tell your friends the Weigh-In MMA on Facebook and on your Twitter.
Yep, hit me up on Mr. MMA at the Weigh-In MMA. I always hit my followers back.
Yeah, we live tweet, we follow the fights, and hopefully you're following us. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time after the bell.
Peace!